Good morning, all.
Morning.
A little bit late. What I was doing was changing this so you could find a little easier. So I went on to the web page there and put in a great big button here so you can find the Zoom link. So all you got to do is click on that and get started. So, all right. So what we'll do is again, here's the presentation lineup, and this is tentative, so we'll start with number one, and we'll go all the way down to the bottom. We're not going to rush on this. I want to be able to talk about each of these as we go along, and so what I want you guys to do is make notes as the presenter is going on. Wait a minute, you guys can't even see what I'm looking at, can you? It dawned on me that I'm not sharing my screen.
Just draw your mug.
Here we go. All right, so let me start all over again. All right, so I put a great big Zoom button on here so you guys can find it and get to it okay. And then down here in the presentation, so we'll start with Heath this morning, and like I say, what I want you guys to do is take notes as we go through here, and so that you understand what's going on. There will be a quiz once this is all done. So, and the presentations, they'll all be, what I'll try to do is cut them apart and then repost them on Moodle here so that you can get to them and relook at them. And so, when we finish with each presentation, we'll discuss it amongst ourselves. So you'll have time for questions, comments, anything that you may disagree with. So that's why, it was very important to spend some time on this, to do your research so that your research is right, and not at the last minute type thing. So hopefully we'll have a good session here. And, generally this is really, really, in the past anyway, it's always been really informative. Students seem to like that, and that's why I've kept it going. So we will start with Heath, and let me see how I go about giving you co-host. Make co-host. All right, Heath, take it away.
I guess I just hit the share screen button and it'll take over.
Yep.
All right. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Hang on, my thing's being weird. Come on, man.
Should be something at the bottom where it says share screen.
Yeah, it's pulling up share screen is saying desktop when I'm hitting share.
Okay, when you pull that up, you should see something that says screen, and just double click on the screen.
Yeah, I don't see a screen button. Jesus, man.
When you hit share screen, what does it show you?
It shows me desktop one. It has like a hazard sign on it.
Has like a hazard sign on it?
Yeah.
If you click on that, what does it do?
Allow Zoom to share your screen, and I have to give it like security and privacy grant access. Oh man.
Yeah, you might have to go into your settings. When I was setting up Carlos's here at school week or so ago, you had to go in your settings to give it rights to share.
Really? Yeah. It's not letting me pull it up. God. God.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Is it maybe something that needs to be changed in the Zoom settings?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how I did it.
Make sure that I did make him co-host.
There's a setting in yours, since you're the moderator.
Yeah.
That you have to allow shares in your settings, because that's what I had to set up for Carlos. So check in your Zoom settings, since you're the moderator, because you have to allow shares as the originator. I forgot how to get to it. Well, because you're the moderator, your settings should be more visible. Let me do this real quick.
Well, I don't know where I would go to do that.
Hold on a minute.
Okay, so I've opened up security and I've allowed participants to share screen, chat, rename themselves, unmute themselves, start video, remove, suspend. So yeah, I think,
So you've given us all the rights we need.
yep. Okay, so walk me through this again. So you click share screen at the bottom.
Right.
And what does it say?
It says desktop 1, whiteboard, and iPhone AirPlay stuff. That's pretty
Stop and see what happens.
Click them all, see what happens. Yeah.
much.
I was actually in a class last fall where we also did presentations and we had similar problems, I think.
Oh, okay. No, don't pick the whiteboard. Make sure you click share sound and optimize for video clip. And there should be one image within that Zoom window that shows your desktop, whatever's up currently. And that's the one you select.
You don't see screen when you click on the share screen. You don't see screen at all.
Yeah, but you're not going to share that.
That's what I always share, the screen. That way it's whatever I'm looking at, you see. It's not dedicated to one particular program. So when I pull mine up, I said, there we go. What happened?
No, I did that. I just wanted to show you, got to click your desktop. Now I got to figure out how to unshare.
Down there at the bottom, it just says stop share, red button.
Okay. Yeah, so what he's got to do, click on share screen, your Zoom window will pop up, and whatever your desktop looks like now, you'll see the image in there. You click that, but make sure you click share sound and optimize for video clip first.
Okay, this is show you what I see when I click on it. Do you see this is what I see when I click on the
Right.
screen button, and I usually just double click this screen button there.
Well, how do you show what's on your desktop if you're showing the view of us?
Do what now?
All right, you say when you choose to share, you're double clicking the screen.
Yeah.
But that would just show all of us. How do you get to those other windows?
Well, when I double click on the screen, then like it is now, I'm in Paint. Whatever is on my screen is showing you. It takes, basically, when I hit the screen button, all of you disappear.
Oh, okay. I never tried it that way. Does Heath, do you have that share? The screen thing like he's showing? When you, well, he can't see it while you're sharing.
It just says I gotta unlock like a privacy thing on my computer.
It's weird. You probably have never shared a screen. That's probably why it's not set up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. All right.
Privacy thing. I've never had that issue, so I don't know what that means. Do you have a security button at the bottom?
Yeah, I got a security button at the bottom here.
Click that and see what you get.
I don't have that.
You're not co-host yet.
Oh, you made him co-host. That's why security. So yeah, once his co-host and his security settings should show up and he can go in there and change it. I don't remember how to do it because I can't see mine.
Share screen.
This is what I've got right there. Just when I hit the security, that's all my buttons there.
Right. Yeah. No, I got that too.
And all of these are checked.
Yeah, all those are checked.
Lock, meeting, enable, waiting room. No, you don't need that.
I don't know.
So when you click share screen, Heath, what do you see?
I see all of the like desktops and stuff, the whiteboard, and it just has a warning sign in the middle, and it says you need to open my systems and settings and allow the privacy to be changed or something.
Now, did you say you see one with your desktop on it that looks like your desktop?
No, I mean, it says desktop one, but it has that message. I can't share really.
Okay, let's try this. Go down there at the bottom and hit your Windows icon and then go to settings.
There I am there.
All right, click on the privacy one. Are any of those turned off?
No.
They're all on?
Yeah, I'm going through them right now just to make sure here.
Security and maintenance.
This is what I see. All of mine are on.
Oh, wait, I'm in the wrong area. Oh, hell. Looking at my desktop. Let me be looking at my laptop.
Mine's a little different because I'm using a MacBook right now.
I can't help you there.
Ooh, me neither. Mac's weird. Their settings are obviously different.
Mr. Hernandez, are you ready to go today or now? Since you're second.
You
can try mine, see if it works.
All right, let me just, let's get Heath right there while he figures out how to get this, and we'll go on, move forward.
Okay.
Okay, you now have co-host privileges.
Okay. 1 second. Okay. Let's see.
Please tell me you're not using a MacBook.
Well, I am, but hopefully this works.
Woohoo!
Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Go down there to the bottom and you see your slide screen there, right there. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Take it away.
Well, hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Mycon, and I just want to talk to you guys today about lightweight concrete and tell you guys a few things I learned about it. Okay, so lightweight concrete, there's they make it out of natural aggregate and artificial aggregate, and the natural one is like they come out of like volcanic pumice or pumice. I didn't learn how to say it.
It's pronounced pumice.
Pumice, and then the natural one, the lightweight, are less preferred over the artificial ones, and the artificial ones are usually produced by expanding the rocks such as the slate, the shell, and this other one that I can't pronounce. But they're also manufactured from ash and light tag. I think I have this one picture here, which is this, and it's this helps it contain less weight, and
What is lab tag?
it's it's this okay, here. It's this material that they use so the concrete becomes less, it has less volume and less heavier, which helps it pretty much be the lightweight concrete. And there's two methods that they use for it to get ready. And one, they inject the mixing during the plastic condition for it to have a chemical reaction. And the second way is is to introduce either by mixing the stable foam or by whipping air using an air entertaining agent. And then these are some properties of the lightweight aggregates, which I'll show you on this one. These are some of the natural ones: the pumice, the diatomate, volcanic cylinders, and these are some of the artificial ones that they use. And
So when you say artificial, they're man-made
Yes. I believe so.
or altered anyway?
Yes. And the pros of the or advantages of the lightweight concrete is the reduction in dead loads, and they improve the workability, and it has better fire resistance than the normal one, than well, the normal concrete, and it's easier to handle, and it reduces the cost of transportation and handling as well. And it's a little bit more durable. And there's some pictures. And some of the cons that I found was that the depth, which can occur like these it can form like these little cracks that you were talking about. It can cause like wobbles, and like it causes the corrosion to sink in, and it makes like 2 or 3 different type of cracks. Let me show you. Oh, it's like these, and they can either make like narrow deep or shallow wide. I could just like completely like destroy. And they're very sensitive with like the mixture of water, and it's a little harder to finish because of the porosity and angularity and of the aggregate, and the mixing time is a little longer than the normal one would be, just because it's a little more sensitive to the water. And I found that the cost was like $20 to $30 per cubic yard. It's a little higher than normal weight mix. And I found this one picture I found. It was showing some of the similar costs, but all this other one is just kind of like extra. I just wanted to show these, but these are some of the other ones that would the square feet of the cost compared to this one that I found. And more pictures. And I was looking at this online with some the green build houses made of lightweight concrete, and this is one that I thought was kind of nice or interesting. It was made of that, and I think that concludes my project.
Okay. Thank you much. So questions?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. Are there specific applications where lightweight concrete is more advantageous as opposed to standard concrete? Specific projects or building types, that kind of thing?
Yeah, they use it on roof slabs and small houses, just because a less it's less stronger, the strength of the lightweight concrete than it is for like normal concrete. So they use it on like usually small houses or slabs, um, or small walls. It's also used like for stairs or for like windows. Um, and yeah, that's what I.
Anybody else?
Do the types of aggregates used vary depending on region, or or is there different availability for different types of aggregates, and is that why you might choose one over the other?
Yes, the different ones are depending on it's how much they like weigh, how much density it has, and some of them have more or less. That it would be depending on how much you would want to use for depending the project that you would like to use.
I assume some of them are going to be more available in some regions than others. It might be easier for a builder to use a volcanic pumice in an area that has a lot of volcanic rock, and it might be harder to find here, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you know what the pumice is? Volcanic pumice? Have you ever been to the, you've been, I'm sure you have, you've been to the dentist and they have this little container and they got that little thing, they dip it in and then they clean your teeth. That's what they're
Yeah.
using. It's just flavored. When I was growing up, I went to a dentist that didn't use any flavorings at all. And that stuff is crappy. It's, yeah. So it's very fine, pulverized, volcanic rock is what it is basically. Wanted to elaborate a little bit. So wanted to show you these. This is lightweight concrete being used. All of these designs are from Antoni Gaudi. And so you've probably heard the word, oh man, that looks gaudy. Well, that's where that came from, is Andre Gaudi. So he does, this is in Barcelona, and this is a cathedral in Barcelona that he started, and he was killed at a very young age, or fairly young age, by a car in the 1920s. So you can imagine, they didn't have a whole lot of cars back then, but what car was hit him, killed him. So the people of Barcelona he never completed this project. It sat vacant for a little bit, and he took the citizens of Barcelona took it on themselves to start working on this. And so they're still working on it, and it's not complete yet. But some of the stuff that he done, is just absolutely mind boggling. Just, to say the least. But he used a lot of lightweight concrete to do these projects. Now, the inner portion, the inner skeleton of the project is regular concrete or strong concrete, and then the lightweight concrete was used as a, as a, what am I trying to think of? Veneer. God, lost it for words this morning. So veneer. So anyway, you can do a lot of things with this lightweight concrete, not just this, but you can also do a lot of structural stuff as well, for like roofs, you've seen concrete shingles for roofs, and that is made out of lightweight concrete as well. When they first started making concrete masonry units, CMUs, they used regular concrete in it, and it was very heavy. So you can get lightweight block now, which is made out of lightweight concrete as well. Has pretty much the same structural stability. It's just easier to lay. Trust me, if you've laid any block after the end of the day, you know, it makes a big difference between lightweight concrete block and regular concrete block, and whether it's wet or not. If it's wet, it's even more heavier. So not cool. But you can imagine if we were trying to put you know, a concrete roof on this house here, if we were using regular concrete, you can imagine what kind of roof system that we would have to have. Concrete's heavy. All right, so you'd be looking at something like one of those small concrete birds or concrete squirrels that you see, gnomes or something. That's how much each one of these slates would weigh if it were regular concrete. So lightweight concrete has to be used. Obviously, we don't need any structural significance there. The only thing, this is just to shed the water and get it out of the way. But we definitely don't want to use regular concrete on something like that. But you see lightweight concrete used a lot in commercial applications for floors and so forth that have a steel structural support system, but then use the lightweight concrete for the floor on it. And even further, more lightweight, you can go to gypsum. And so you can do lightweight concrete with a gypsum on top of that. That makes it even lighter, and you can finish gypsum very nicely and make it look good.
How is the gypsum waterproof?
It's not. The gypsum is not waterproof.
How do the curing times compare to that of regular concrete making?
You said how they cure?
Yeah. Is it 28 days still, or is it shorter or longer?
I was reading that it was still 28 days from what the one website that I was reading it from, that said that it would still be that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Any comments?
I thought that building at the end looked pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Looks like something you'd see out of Disney World.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. All right. Heath, have you been able to remedy your technical difficulties any?
I think so.
All right. Well, let's give it a try and see what we got here.
All right.
Okay, you are now co-host.
Yes. All right. I think I got it. All right. I think this is it.
All right.
Okay. Woo! Finally. All right. So, good morning, fellow classmates. My name is Heath, and I did my presentation on the Pallet tiny house, and we'll be talking about that for a little bit today. So here we go. So with every project or build or whatever you're doing, there is needs and solutions that you need to find and obviously solve the problem to. So what one of the needs would be is to obviously have shelter and food and water, because that's human basic needs to survive, and to store human waste as well. And the solution to this would be to find a trailer, the pallets, and the roofing and insulation, all your materials that you'll have to use to build your tiny house with here. And so where would you want to find these materials at? Specifically the pallets would be your local hardware store. I know since I work at Lowe's, I do know we sell some pallets, but not all of them. You can go to a local business here in Asheville called the Mulch Lady, which you can buy like large amounts of pallets that they sell, or you can go online and you can look up at Strand's Pallet Service Inc., which are based out of Charlotte, and you can order new pallets. So if your pallets aren't looking at nice, you can order some from there, and they'll send you some nice looking ones as well. So there's multiple different types of pallets that you could choose from, but what I looked up would be the stringer pallet and the block pallet. And these pallets can weigh, they usually range from 33 to 50 pounds each. So, and here's a stringer pallet. It's built with some 1x on top, the top deck and the lower deck. And on the sides there, they got some 2x4s running across the two ends and then through the middle to keep the structure safe. And it can hold up to 2,500 pounds. And the block pallet here can hold up to 4,600 pounds. And as the picture shows, right where the stringers would be on the stringer pallet, but instead they got little blocks there to hold the pallet up and stuff. And this is the sturdiest one. And these two are the lightest pallets I've found, because when you're like trying to pull your tiny house, weight is a factor, a huge factor in building your tiny house. So these are the two best pallets to use. So when using a pallet, the pallets to make the skeleton or the framework for your house here, you can use it and then have the insulation go behind it, and then you would cover the insulation with the plywood and the siding material that would go on the outside. Or you can have the pallet flipped on the inside out, if that makes sense, to have it more look like a rustic feel on the inside when you get done here. And your other materials that you would obviously need would be the wiring, piping, insulation, and screws, nails, and for the plywood to go on the exterior of the house to enclose the structure. And the insulation you use, the best one to use would be for the walls is the R19. It's just a real good to just keep warmth in and stuff. And you could use R30 or 38 for like the roof and stuff. And there are 4 types of insulation, but I don't necessarily think foam board is a true insulation. It's more like an extra barrier to keep like wind from breaking through. But this is the foam board, which is one of those right here. Yeah. And then you have your bat insulation as well, which is your traditional form of insulation here, made out of fiberglass, and obviously insulating walls, attics, ceilings, and floors. Then your blow insulation here. With this, you'll just need a process of filling in the studs, and you have to get a blower, obviously, to turn up the insulation, and just blow the insulation in the house, in the attic, or wherever you want to blow it at. And the last type of insulation is a spray foam insulation. This is an alternate to the traditional type of insulation. It's more expensive, what I found, than any other types of insulation here. But there is a concern for health risk with this type, because it does release chemicals after the insulation. So just if you choose to go down this path, just let it air out a little bit longer. This one. And then you have multiple types of roofs. So, but let's say if you want to, I don't know, have a deck on the top of your tiny house, then you want to use a flat roof. Or if you want to go green and catch rainwater or have solar panels, then you would probably want to have a gabled or a slanted roof for that matter. So, and there are two types of metal roofing here, the steel and aluminum. It's really easy to install. Um, you can collect the rainwater easily, and it's a lot cleaner too. Instead of like asphalt, where you can get like discolored or get pieces of asphalt in the rainwater. And it's wind resistant as well. And one of the cons is it's a little bit more pricey with that as well. So then you have your asphalt shingles here, which is your traditional type of roofing here. It's low cost, also easy to install. It's pretty much at every hardware store, so you can find it pretty much anywhere. But the disadvantage for this one would be it's a lot heavier, like a lot heavier than the metal roofing. So, and it's a little bit not that much wind resistant as the metal roofing type. And then the reasons to have a tiny house, well, if you're wanting to save a lot of money and instead of, finding a house or whatever, I would say this is the way to go here. With this tiny house as well, you can travel across the country. It's a lot easier to maintain what I've been looking and reading as well. And a lot of people on this blog I was reading said it's a lot easier on their life with like stress because they know what they need and they don't have like unnecessary stuff, more or less. And also with a tiny house, we can reduce the carbon footprint as well with having solar panels, like I mentioned earlier, collecting water, using a composting toilet here, and you can grow your own food pretty much as well. So, I mean, I would honestly go off grid if I was going to have a tiny house myself as well here. So, and then the solar panels will get more in depth on this here. So if you have a solar panel on top of your tiny house, you got to factor in the weight again to that as well. And some tiny houses have like a thing where you can like rotate them. It's pretty cool actually. The solar panel's like an arm that kind of like pushes out to maximize the, I guess, catching of the sunlight or something. So what are the pros of having a tiny house? Well, save a lot of money. You can travel, smaller carbon footprint as well, and less possessions. Going back to like your needs and what you really need to have. And some of the cons here are, you got to have a decent sized vehicle to pull your tiny house, depending on how big your house is. Some tiny house laws are consider it an RV, so you'll have to park it like in an RV park as well. And there's like less storage and less living and entertaining space in your house as well. So, and some of the most common tiny house laws in the bathroom, you need to at least be or have height clearance of 6 feet and 4 inches. And in the living areas, you need to have 6 feet 8 inches. And there should also be at least one emergency window to get out in case if there's an emergency as well. So with the zoning law, which zoning law is a big factor in this, some states or laws, you can't buy land and build your tiny house on it, which is I find strange. So you'll have to have a secondary residential unit to have it on, which is really weird. So the cost for having a tiny house, the average person on making a tiny house would be 30,000 to 60,000, but the range can go from 8,000 up to 150,000 for a tiny house here. And just a little recap here. The tiny house is a lot cheaper than owning your standard house. Also, a tiny house and trailer can be used to travel anywhere you want to go as well, and the financial purposes as well is a lot cheaper, and you can just reduce your carbon footprint and to save the planet or whatever, how you want to say it. And if I was going to build a tiny house, this would be my design here. This is exactly how it is outside, and here's the floor plan of it. On your left-hand side, you got a loft, and then right below it, you got a full bath, or kind of full bathroom with a toilet and a bathtub. Then you got your kitchen right across from it, and you kind of got a decently living and entertaining area as well. And last but not least, there's a up-and-coming tiny house community in the Flat Rock community as well. So, and that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's go back to the pallet side of it. Tell us a little bit more how to build these pallet walls.
All right, so where is that at? So like here, you can have it going out anyway, like you describe it like with the stringer pallet, the one side of a stringer pallet have the many types of I guess deck one bys or deck boards or whatever they're called. You can have that on the outside because there's more guys can't talk today. That's more of structure and more places you can like screw in like the plywood to make the structure more steady. And if you're putting insulation up, you can have it like lean up against the the pallet as well, like on the inside of the pallet. But here you can see that they use, it looks like the block pallet up top here, and then the stringer pallet on the bottom here. And you would just simply stand it up using little poles here to hold it up and brace it until you get it screwed down for the time being. So, yeah.
But what holds the top pallet to the lower pallet?
You can put like a some like a piece of 2x6 like running across here. I don't know if can y'all see my mouse cursor there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. You can put like a piece of like 2x6 or something running across here to make like a layer to hold it together, and you would just simply use like screws and nails to just lock it in place there. So yeah.
Okay. You also suggested using, where you click on number 9 slide over there for me.
Right.
R19 in your walls. The pallets that I used on my tiny house, they were made out of 2x4s and not 2x6s, and it would be hard for R19 to be used there.
Right. Yeah. And I kept reading that problem, but sometimes like some people do is like they would take apart the backside of the pallet and put like an extra, I don't know, like an extra couple inches to fit the R19 in the walls there. So, but that's why, and a lot of people I see use the spray foam and the blow insulation as well. Because if they don't want to go through that hassle of an extra step for putting insulation in the wall, then they'll just use the spray foam or the blow insulation.
Seems like it'd be pretty hard to get a bat tucked into a pallet properly and not have it compressed or have voids. Concern for me about using pallets as wall structure is your external sheathing and air sealing it properly. That's why blown in insulations or sprayed in insulations seem to make a little more sense.
Right. Yes.
Go down to the bottom of your presentation where you talked about the laws. 22.
Okay.
Where did you find this at? This is new to me.
Well, God, I forgot where I found it. I just typed in when I was looking for like I just typed in cons for tiny houses, and this was at the bottom of the list that came up for like the ceiling heights and stuff, which before I didn't think that you would necessarily need like however feet and inches of height that you would need. But I can't quite remember where I found it though.
Well, one of the reasons that I asked is because my youngest son is 6'5", and he hates a shorts bathroom to take a shower in. So
Right.
also, in a tiny house, most of the laws are actually governed by DMV, DOT, rather than code. Now, when you look in the code under habitable, they have, certain criteria there, but like I say, DOT does not have any criteria whatsoever, to my knowledge, as far as size of roof or anything like that. Their criteria is it can't be more than 8 foot 3 inches wide and 14 foot tall. And depending on the weight of it is going to depend on how many axles you have. And most of the people that I know of that have done tiny houses, they overkill on the axle. In other words, they put 2 or 3 axles in there when they really don't need that much. You think about a transfer truck and what all it's got on there and how many wheels it's on now. It does have 2 wheels deep, but there is a certain poundage that is required on that. So go down to the next one, 23. Your zoning laws, you were questioning that. A lot of times the HOA have problems with that. So if you go out here and buy some land out in the middle of nowhere, you're pretty much gonna be able to do whatever you want to. But now if you have a lot that's in a development, then the homeowners association, oh my God, one of the developments that I lived in, and I'm glad I'm gone, we literally had women that would walk around every morning with a ruler to measure how tall the grass is. I mean, that's how bad it was. I had a boat, couldn't put the boat in, you couldn't leave it out in the open. It had to be in a garage or somewhere else. If you had an RV, it could not be in the driveway overnight. So in other words, if I brought my RV over there and we were going to get ready to take a trip the next day, we would pack it and I would have to go take it and move it to somewhere else because it can't stay there overnight. In other words, even if I had Fred and Wilma come over and decide they're going to spend the night with us and they had their RV, it cannot stay on the property. And so the HOAs can be a pain in the butt. They can be in your favor at times, but I think a lot of times it goes, they take it a little bit overboard sometimes. But the size of the house, a lot of times is dictated by the HOA. In this particular housing development, no house could be less than 2,000 square foot. So, obviously you can't get a tiny house in 2,000 square foot.
Right.
Any other questions from other folks?
Do you know if those laws are North Carolina based or any other state?
Which laws are you talking about?
Just any of them, the zoning laws or like the law before about the bathroom has to be a certain height?
Well, each of the building code, again, stipulates the habitable spaces. And we go under the Southern Building Code, and then there's a Northern Building Code, Western and Northwestern and Southwestern. And most of all of the habitable rooms are already established. But again, those generally don't apply to a tiny house at all. DOT makes the laws otherwise for the height and the width of it, and that is standard. That's nationwide.
Also, would you recommend like going to Lowe's or Home Depot to maybe buying one of those sheds they have there and make a tiny home out of that? Because I've always thought that'd be a good idea.
Heath, what do you say?
If you work there with me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I realized that. Yeah, I mean you can, but I mean you're gonna have to put up like some insulation up as well. Some type of, if you're gonna like live in it, you're gonna have to put some insulation up to keep from getting cold or keep the cold from coming in and stuff there. And have some source of light running in there. And have running water, maybe if it's a tiny house, some type of water system going in it.
Right.
I have to touch base on that one though, but yeah.
Like I know we don't have it at Lowe's, but at Home Depot, I know they have like some of the bigger ones that are 2 stories.
Mm,
Even as a kid, I loved going in there and exploring them. I think I can make my own little house out of this.
yeah.
A whole bedroom upstairs and like a bathroom and kitchen and living room set downstairs. That'd be great.
Oh yeah.
As soon as you decide you want to turn that into a tiny house and take it off skids and plumb it and hook it up to septic, you're going to run into a lot of issues with permitting that as a living space. If it stays on skids and doesn't have any utilities hooked up to it, it's just a shed. But as soon as you try to put it on utilities, it's going to fall under the permits for a house, and they'll want it to have a real foundation to be able to be plumbed and have power.
Yeah, I'd probably imagine that.
Now, if you put it on wheels, then it becomes a DOT problem.
So then you're limited to a shed that's 8'3",
Yeah.
14 foot tall.
Still not a bad idea, especially for like homeless people.
One of the things that I've found out that, this shed idea is a good idea. My wife, she's seen it and thought, hey, let's look into that. Well, I got to looking at the cost of it, and it would be a heck of a sight cheaper for me to build it myself than it would be to buy a shed already built. And and I could, something like a shed I could probably do in a weekend. So, but just the shed, not having, you know, plumbing or finished interior or anything like that. Any other questions?
Yeah, did you look into the cost of lot fees at all? Because I know one of the big draws of tiny homes is that it's a good way to save money, but if you don't have your own land, it, you know, and you're renting somewhere that costs like $800 a month as a lot fee, doesn't really add up. Also, sorry, my dogs are in the background.
Yeah, no, I should have touched up on that, but usually like if you don't, you know, like you said, have land or something, you'll have to either go rent it from somebody or a RV park, which if you rent it from RV park is kind of get a little pricey over long term. So just buying some land and just paying a lump sum there and just being done with it. So.
A lot of people do work trades too. Like you can work on their land or help them with a farm or something to park your tiny home.
Yeah, that is true as well. I actually got a couple of neighbors around here down the road that has a tiny house, and they got a little like, I guess, farms thing they work on, and it looks like they're just doing work around the farm to, like you said, stay there. So. About it.
There's another tiny home village in Mills River that I'm trying to research, find. Any other questions for Heath or comment?
Does the codes follow that of a mobile home or, well, it's obviously not modular because it's on wheels. So I guess codes have to meet just what trailer codes are, or does it have to meet full house codes?
The mobile homes fall under the code, the building code, because once they're there, the wheels generally come off. They are house. The wheels are only there for
Transportation.
just for moving it from point A to point B. It's not something that you could hook behind a truck and carry to the road. A modular is put on a trailer. It doesn't have wheels at all. It's set on a trailer and taken off a trailer.
When you're building with the pallets, do you keep the pallets together all in one piece and put them up like that, or do you take apart any of it? Like, can you use an individual piece?
What I found that they were building it like as individual pieces at first, or so this other guy I was watching or reading about, he made like the wall, like if we go, where's this slide at? Like if we go to this slide here, you can see like they put some like looks like a 2x6 running across here and connected all the pallets together up top. Then it looks like they got a piece running right here that's connecting these pallets together right here. I mean, you can do it either way, it looks like, but probably the most efficient way to get your walls done first would probably be doing making like the whole wall piece first, like how these guys are doing here.
Let me share with you my little experience here. First, this is I don't know how you pronounce this, Oconee Bell Tiny Home Village. That's the one I was telling you about in in Mills River. One of my former students actually finished, he just recently finished his tiny house and moved it to here. Let me find,
Is that on the main drag in Mills River?
what's that?
Is it like off the main highway or you have to go a ways away?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. That's where he put it, and that's all I can tell you. So he built his, he went, bought a frame, built it all just like he would be a house. So he is a window renovator. He buys old windows. Actually, they pretty much probably give them to him. And then he renovates the windows and they reuse them. So, he's pretty good at it. This is what he done. And he now lives in this tiny home community here in Mills River. Now, exactly where it is, I couldn't tell you. I don't know exactly. But so you can, basically what I'm understanding is you go and you rent a lot, pretty much like a trailer park, but it's nicer than a trailer park. So if that makes any sense. Like mine.
I feel like I've seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
Is there certain regulations that you have to have in order to get power?
Well, if you can get a temporary, here's the thing. That's a very good question. It depends on where you're at, for number one. Now, most power companies are not going to run power 200 or 300 or 400 feet if they know that you're going to be there temporarily, part-time, like as a hunting cabin or something. So if you want temporary power, the best thing for you to do is, plan to build a house, have you some plans, and you get your temporary put in. Now, you can, if you plan to build that house, in the next 1,000 years, that's fine. It doesn't matter. But if they get word that it's going to be a tiny house, RV, temporary situation, they are going to probably charge you out the hind leg to run power to a temporary pole. Okay, so tiny houses have to be hooked up to temporary, unless, well, if you hook it up if you permanently hook it up like you would be a house, your tiny house is no longer a tiny house, where it's a tiny house, but it's not a tiny house on wheels. It now falls under those habitable spaces. All right, so there's a very fine line there. So one of the reasons that folks want to, they want to do this tiny house thing is they want to be in charge of their own life, and they don't want the government telling them how big the living room has to be or the bedroom has to be, or stuff like that. So, and that's what happens in a home. So when you have a habitable home, there are certain guidelines that say, okay, this is habitable. And when you go into the building code, there's just tons and tons of stuff that you can look up in the building planning section on habitable, and ceiling heights, door widths, all of that come into play there. And so right here, chapter 3 in building planning, go in there and just do a search for habitable. And so there's, required heating, minimum areas, habitable rooms shall have a floor area of not less than 70 square feet. Well, let's see, my tiny house is inside, it is roughly, how big is my daggum tiny house? 6 by 12, 6 times 12, 72. So, mine just barely falls under this 70 square feet. All right. Well, a bedroom, so a habitable room should not be less than 7 feet in any horizontal dimension. Well, guess what? You know, I only have 7 feet in one direction. You know, so when you go into heights, 7 feet for a ceiling height. Bathroom's not less than 6'8". That's probably, well, that's still not what that other one was. But so, you know, if I want to live in a rock, I want to be able to live under a rock. So, you know, so when we get into this tiny house movement here, it's totally, it's a set of mind, you know, it's just, you know, it's a different thing. That was the route that we wanted to go originally, but our house was just a little smaller than what, you know, we anticipated. So like in this, this is the beginning of our tiny house. And so the way we ended up doing our, you know, attaching these two is basically you can see that this one here is torn apart. And what I've done was I took these pieces of wood out of here and I use them here inside. So they are scabbed on here to, you know, basically halfway through each one of those. So each one of these has one. So to make up this wall here, instead of just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it actually took 9 pallets to make this one wall because I took it apart and used parts and pieces for it, if that makes any sense. So, you know, it's got to be structural enough to go down the road. I mean, you know, I've got wheels on it. So different tiny house builders have got to be, you know, different ways, in other words, of building a tiny house is you got to take that into consideration. I did go and put a you know, a standard 2x across the whole thing, around the whole thing to tie the top together. The bottom is held together by the floor. And I'll tell you, know, it goes back to what Danny was saying, trying to put bad insulation in there didn't work at all. So you cannot shove bad insulation into these walls, I promise you. So what I ended up doing was blowing it in. I did all my, I mean, doing the plumbing alone. I mean, you know, not only do you have to deal with your studs, you've got to deal with these pieces here, and it's not fun at all. And you know, it takes a ton of planning. Wiring is even difficult, for God's sake. I mean, you know, because you're having to deal with all of these 1-bys that are going around through here. I was trying to find a video of my home. There it is. So I did compact, dense packed cellulose in here. So basically, I made myself a homemade blower. I took a leaf blower and that has the vacuum setting on it, and I took the blower portion of that cleans out the gutters, and I made my own. I just opened up a pack, throwed it in the floor, and started sweeping it into the vac, and it started shoving it in there. I basically had to go through here with plastic to hold it in place, but after I was done, as I was putting my interior finish boards on, then I was going through here and just cutting this like crazy, just putting slits in it here and there so that it would not hold moisture and, you know, condensation and stuff. But I tell you what, I mean, I could make one hole here, and as you can see, I blowed the whole wall all the way across. So I didn't have, you know, I just made a few puncture holes in it to blow this stuff in. But like I say, once I got it blown in and I started putting my finish on it, then it was very important for me to go through here and make a bunch of slits in there so I don't have any condensation building up in there. And this basically, it stops blowing when you get about 3.5 pounds per square foot. So that's dense packed insulation. So what I mean is, you know, it's packed in here. You can see some of the plastic where it's bulging out there. Most of this is bulging because I was blowing it, but when I got ready to put my wallboard on, it still was bulging, and that compacted it even better. When I did my office, I did the same thing here. I used the same contraption, and you know, necessity is the mother of invention. I did use batt insulation on the ceiling. It does make a mess, and so I also used pallets to make my door. This is the front door to it. I took apart a bunch of pallets. I took me a 1/2-inch piece of plywood and a renovated or a salvaged piece of insulated tempered glass and made myself a door. It looks fairly nice. I also have under floor radiant floor heating. And so, and I even stuck Bernie Sanders on the front porch to, make it complete. So this is pretty much the finished product. I've still got to put this door up. I haven't got this door up. This is a queen size bed, by the way. And you can see that, we don't have a whole lot of height right here. It's climbing, it's, crawl space basically. And that would not pass as a habitable room in the building code. Everything that we've put in here is pretty much either discontinued or salvaged. All the wood was salvaged. I got the wood, all of the wood for free. And it just was muddy, and I had to do a lot. I spent probably more in sandpaper than I did on wood. Dining room table, down and up. This is ceramic tile that looks like marble, discontinued. And so you can do a lot of things with it.
On the insulation, is that the same kind you would blow in an attic?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cellulose insulation.
How do you keep it from clumping?
Oh, it don't clump. You run it through that blower, and it grinds it up as it goes through, because it goes through a fan basically, and it'll shred it in a heartbeat.
Have you slept in your tiny home yet?
I have.
How is it crawling into that tiny?
It's a little claustrophobic, but it's cool. The windows are right there beside of us, so it wasn't a big issue. Having sex was a different story, so we won't even get into that. So we actually even Leanne wanted to build a tiny house at the tiny house. So this was our Christmas decoration for this year. So we made a little model of a tiny house, and she found an old pickup truck. Yeah, so here's the shower. We're gonna lose the shower. This was like I say, my youngest son. I put this specifically on the ceiling with a little handle to turn it on and off. So basically you turn this on and you've got both of these. And but son of a gun, I mean, from the time I started this planning until to this point, he actually grown another inch. So he still has to bend down to get in here, because this is 6'8". The bottom of this is 6'8". And so I'm losing a little bit there. Like I say, he's 6'5", and he can, if he stands up straight, his head is touching that shower there.
Where do you have your plumbing run out to? Is it just run out on the ground right now, or
The what now?
your plumbing for like whenever you're taking a shower stuff for your water to run out to? Where does
It will. We don't have any tanks. We decided not to go the tank method. So anytime we go camping, we've got a little catch basin thing that if you've ever been to a campground, you've seen these RVs carrying, it's got this little tank that has little wheels on it. I was trying to see if I can find a picture of it, but so we just, it's basically just, we set it up kind of like an RV. So if we go to a campground with this thing, it's got to be hooked up to their septic system, or if you were to set it up in a permanent area. So one of the one fellow that I know of has offered me $20,000 for it. I probably got 2,000 in it. He's offered me $20,000. He wants to turn it into a Airbnb on some property that he has up near the gorge. And I can't. If he does that, he's gonna build a deck around it permanently, and by doing so, he's going to have to put in a septic tank. He doesn't have to put in a leach field because he can just put in the septic tank and then have the septic tank pumped ever so often when it fills up. I cannot find a picture of that tube coming off of the side of it. Not off the bat, but it's not even in this picture. It's right there, but I don't have it in this picture. I don't have a picture of that at all. But let me just show you what it is. RV.
Have you thought about adding solar panels later?
Nah, I'm gonna sell it before that. This is what I'm talking about here. It's got that on the end of it, much like an RV does.
Was that a pump?
What's that?
In the previous photo, was that a pump?
Yes.
Okay.
That is what appears to be, that is a sink disposal.
Oh, garbage disposal.
Yeah.
I thought it looked familiar.
So you know, it's taking all the waste and turning it into this. You know, it's pushing it out through there. So all of your poop and your paper gets all ground up and they just turn it into water. But so yeah. Any questions? All right, let's see. Who is next?
That'd be me.
Okay, all right. Who is me?
Trevor.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right, Trevor. You are co-host. Take it away, buddy.
All right. There it goes. All right, so cordwood. What is it doing? What is cordwood? Cordwood is also known as cordwood masonry, stack wall masonry, or stack wood masonry. It is uniformly cut wood as stacked and binded with a type of mortar recipe. It consists of a inner and outer shell, and then the insides you fill with any type of insulation that you're going to use. I have a better image to show you that later. How old is this method? This method is about 1,000 years old. We found structures overseas in Germany, as well as here in the US and in Canada. This structure you see here was found in Arizona. It is made of 200 million year old petrified wood along with clay. Where did this method start? So the University of Manitoba speculates that this method originated in Scandinavian countries and was brought to North America. However, some others speculate that this was a Canadian invention. What is the average lifespan of a cordwood home? These homes on average last up to 150 years minimum. A lot of the structures that are still standing today are about over 100 years old. So they do have some longevity to them. What contributes to longevity? That would be builder's lime. Builder's lime is a hydrated lime that is powder form, and you apply this in the mortar. And what this does is it gives the wood breathability, gives it self-healing properties, and helps it be a little bit more flexible. here are some mortar recipes. Anybody have any questions so far? Am I going too fast? Okay. What is the best wood to use? Generally, cordwood home builders say that cedar is the best to use as it is rot resistant. Others say that just any softwood is good to use because it doesn't shrink as much when it comes to temperature. But generally with whatever wood you're going to use, you want to let it get to about a 12% moisture content before you even start building with it. What are some things to be cautious about? So when you're building these walls, here's an image showing you the inner and outer shell and then the sawdust in the middle. But when you're building these walls, if you split the wood, when you split it, you create that the shelf. And if you have that facing upwards, it can create a pocket for rainwater to collect in. And then that can also lead to rot. That's something you want to be cautious about while you're building. How thick are the walls? Generally, the walls are anywhere from 8 to 36 inches. Keep in mind, the thicker your wall, the more insulation and the more thermal mass you're going to have with these walls. How is the insulation? So the insulation is generally less than that of a stick frame home. However, where cordwood homes win is by thermal mass. Thermal mass is a battery. It stores energy from sunlight and heat for use later. So say your home is, or say it's really sunny in the summer, really hot, the walls are going to store that energy. And when it cools down at night, it's going to slowly release this energy and heat your home. The thermal mass is better than that of a stick frame home, but it is less than that of a brick masonry home. What kind of maintenance are you looking at? Generally, cordwood home builders say that these homes require minimal maintenance. Some of the logs will get loose, and what you'll have to do is you'll just have to reapply the mortar around those cracks or where they're getting loose. But other than that, the maintenance is very minimal. How bad is the wood shrinkage? So with this, you want to build with the same species. If you're building with different species of wood, then you're creating different shrinkage rates, which can lead to more cracking. So they definitely say use the same species and then also make sure that your moisture content is 12% before you start building. Some ways of preventing rot. Generally, cordwood home builders say the best thing you can do is have a 24-inch overhang on your roof, as well as getting the house itself off of the ground so that you're creating a little bit of a barrier. So if rain's splashing the ground, it's not hitting your logs. Can you use preservatives and sealants? You can. You don't necessarily have to. You definitely do not want to seal these logs. Again, the whole purpose is to let these logs breathe. And as far as stains, you can stain the ends, you don't have to. And then you can also use borax, but again, you don't have to. What is the bug issue? So just like with a logwood home, you're gonna run into issues with ladybugs, stink bugs. It's just one of those things that you're gonna have to learn to live with. Building permits are gonna be a little bit more difficult to attain with these. Inspectors aren't very familiar with some of the methods and techniques that go into building these homes. So you are going to have a little bit of difficulty there. The total cost, this very much depends on what you do. So if you buy the land and you cut down the wood, debark it, and build this home yourself, then you're saving a lot on labor costs. However, if you buy the wood from a mill, then you're driving up your costs there. If you're hiring people to help you build this, then your costs go up as well. Generally with these homes, you got to use Portland cement, and that drives up your costs just a little bit, but it all depends on you. For resale, just like with a tiny home, you're going to run into some issues. It is a niche market, so you're going to have to find people that are aware of the benefits of this house or this type of home, just like with any tiny home. Would I personally build this type of home? I would, if I had enough trees of the same species that were conducive to building this type of home. But if I didn't, then I would just stick with a high efficiency stick frame home. What are some pros? Other than cutting down the trees, it is environmentally friendly. You can use, just like with the structure found in Arizona, you can use dead wood. Just, you know, be careful with it. Don't use something that's completely fallen apart. It can be economical. Cordwood home builders say that they've built their home for $20,000, and some have said that they built theirs for $80,000, and that includes buying the land, the nails, or not the nails, but the mortar that they use, and then labor costs. Some cons: this is a very labor intensive and time oriented project. Put it in perspective, you cut down the tree, it takes 6 months to a year to get down to appropriate moisture content. And then you have to move that log to wherever you're building, cut it up even more into these cores of whatever length you're going to use. And then you have to stack them and apply the mortar. And then you have to let the mortar cure for a certain amount of time. And then also you have your difficulty with resale and then permits. And then here are my references. Any questions?
Come on, guys, don't be shy.
I got a question about the shrinkage.
Okay.
So if you have one log that shrinks, will there be like a gap in the concrete for like water to get in or something? Or how would that?
So it falls back to the mortar recipe. Because of the builder's lime, it gives it a little bit of flexibility. They don't generally say that you're going to have a issue with water getting into the walls, because you want to have that 24-inch overhang on the roof to help prevent that type of issue. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
You'd mentioned having the foundations up off the ground to keep the wood from contact with dirt or rain splash. Are there any other foundation considerations that you found? Anything else you need to particularly pay attention to? I assume that if we're using a 15 or 16-inch piece of wood, that's going to change the type of foundation we need to use too.
I'm not generally sure. I will do some more research and I'll get back to you on that.
Were there suggestions for elevating? Did they suggest building on a platform on stilts or anything like that?
Generally, they didn't say you need to build on a stilt. I think that they said at a minimum you want at least 12 inches off of the ground. 12 to 16, I think it was.
And why is that?
Just for the rainwater splash or puddling.
Would this be something that you could build in Western North Carolina?
Not actually sure. I can do some research and find out for you.
Good answer. Very good answer. I'll hit on that in just a second. Okay, so you said the wood needs to come down to about 12% moisture content, and so here where we are right now, if we left a piece of wood outside 19 is about the best that we could get. So you're going to have to, somehow kiln dry that, and you can, there's several easy solar ways that you can do that. And so the reason behind that is you always, and this is any case, it is much better to bring the wood down below the average moisture content and let it rise up to it rather than bringing in like 50% moisture content and then all of a sudden it starts shrinking and stuff. So
How is moisture content measured, and do you have to measure every single log you put in there?
Well, you want to have at least, as minimum percent as you can. As far as how can you measure moisture content, I'm not exactly sure. I can also find that out for you.
there are moisture meters that you can buy that are not too terribly expensive, where they have 2 pins in them, and it just basically reads the electrical resistance when you shove it in the end of the board, and it can tell you how much water is in there. Wood is in nature is an electrical insulator, and the water is the conductor. So if it was 100%, then you're not going to have any resistance at all. But so the more resistance you got, the less moisture that you're going to have in there. Borax. What is borax used for?
Borax is generally, I believe it's used to kill bugs inside of wood.
Okay. Yeah. So, 2 things that can be used, borax being one, and the second is diatomaceous earth. Mm-hmm. And so diatomaceous earth is harmless to most animals, but it's very deadly to insects because it's basically like glass. If you can imagine, trying to walk across or maneuver around just piles and piles of broken glass, what you'd look like. So that's what diatomaceous earth does to you.
Diatomaceous.
Diatomaceous.
Excellent for killing fleas.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's used you can actually buy this in an edible form. But I know this is like, what? So back in the day, this was one way to kill worms. So if a person had worms, back 100 years ago, that was pretty much common, for people to have worms. And you basically put this diatomaceous earth on your food and eat it, and it would kill the worms. Farms still use it today in chickens, in poultry, in hogs or cattle, to help kill worms. And you can do that for your dogs. And we put it on our dogs. In the summertime, when we give them a bath, we'll powder them with diatomaceous earth after we're done.
You can spread it around your yard too.
Yeah, you can pretty much make, and again, in the old days, they would take it and they would line it around their house right at the foundation. And that was a complete and total barrier against carpenter ants and termites.
Hey, Danny, what was your question again? It was concrete considerations.
I was wondering if there were some special considerations for the foundation, because if we're going to have a 15 to 20 inch deep wall, it seems like we'll need to support that, and the weight of the mortar and wood is going to be more than a traditional stick built wall.
Okay.
So
do you think this is,
go ahead.
Do you think this is something you could use reclaimed wood for, or would you want to chop yourself and dry them yourself?
Personally, I would want to chop them myself and dry them myself, just so that I know, that it was dried properly or that can be used properly. That's just me.
I was going to hit on that just for a minute. So when we are, so it kind of goes back to my question to you, Trevor. Would it be good to build in Western North Carolina? Probably not. And let me explain why. Get my little bag of goodies here. So what happens to a tree when it dies and lays in the forest here in Western North Carolina? It rots. Yeah. When you go out west, you see petrified wood. You don't see any petrified wood in Western North Carolina. Petrified wood is actually wood that has actually, when you see petrified wood, there's no wood in it, just so you know that. What has happened over the years, over the eons with that wood is the cells in the wood have been filled with minerals, and the wood eventually decays to nothing and leaving nothing but the minerals left over. So this is what wood looks like. Okay, it's just, all I've got here is just a bunch of straws that I'm gonna lose and fall all over the place. And that is pretty much what wood fibers are. Okay, so they're hollow. And so generally when we're building, this is the way that they go in place. This is the outside, this is the inside. But in cordwood, we turn them this way. This is the outside, this is the inside. And obviously, we've got flow of air or anything else between the ends of the piece of woods, right? So in Western North Carolina, because of our moisture, that's the big issue here. Moisture is a big deal for, trying to pick up these straws, is a big deal for cord build houses. Now, you notice that he said it originated in Scandinavia and others thought it originated in Canada. Well, you get up far enough north, the moisture is frozen most of the time. And whenever you have frozen moisture, the moisture content is very low. So like right now, it's 40 degrees right now. Earlier this morning, it was 29 degrees and I think we had like 30% humidity. Right now it's 40 degrees and 54% humidity. As the temperature rises, then that moisture comes out back into the air. When you get up north, you deal with drier climates. When you get to the Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, that area, they're arid, they're desert-like, and your moisture content goes down. Out west, period, except for the coastal areas around Seattle and Portland and so forth like that, very dry, very dry. Matter of fact, I went to my uncle's house in Kalispell, Montana one time, and it was 102 degrees. Now, normally Kalispell, Montana, it's very close to the Glacier National Park. And normally they experience super low temperatures, much lower than what we experience here. But that particular time, they had a heat wave. I've been waiting to go to Montana all my life, and all of a sudden I go to Montana and they freaking have a heat wave. Maybe I took it with them. I don't know. I was trying to escape our summers down here. But nevertheless, my point is their 102 degrees out there felt like 80 degrees here, because my skin was, I was sweating, but you get that evaporation, and evaporation makes you feel cool. When you sweat here in Western North Carolina, by God, it don't go anywhere, because the air is just as moisture content as you are. And so that's why you feel so much hotter here. So it's probably not a cool thing to build here in Western North Carolina without some sort of extra precautions going on there. Another thing I wanted to bring up.
Or anywhere in the South for that matter.
Well, yeah, anywhere in the South that's got high moisture, like when I say, if you're going southwest, that's a different story. All right,
Yeah.
so let's talk about this tree for a second. Trevor said that, you know, if you split it and you put it this way is not good. When you put it this way, it's okay. I want to explain that a little bit. So when you're stacking firewood, this is still the preferred method. Don't do it this way. And here's the reason.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
Your screen's not
Are we
there.
supposed to be seeing your screen?
Am I not sharing my screen?
No.
Oh, gone it. How about now? Can you see it?
You can see it.
God dang it.
Yep.
I hate that. Let me start over. Yeah, keep me on my toes, guys. All right, we got the tree. And we got our annular rings in here. And so if you put it in the wall this way is bad. If you put it in the wall this way is good. And again, this is the way that you should stack your firewood as well. And what the reasoning behind this is, let's take this little section right here and we're going to blow it up a little bit. And so we've got our this is the bark. And if you'll notice that in these pictures over here, there's no bark on there. All the bark has been removed. And that is because of the cambium layer. This cambium layer is a very, very thin layer that goes around here, separating the bark from the inside of the tree. And it is very weak. And so basically what happens in the cambium layer is these cells go through that mitosis thing, and part of that cell becomes the woody portion, and half of it becomes the bark. And this is a separation. You probably already know this. You get a little bit of decay in here, and this bark is the first thing that comes off. You look out and see a dead tree. How can you tell it's dead? Well, it's because it's losing half of its bark. So this has to be removed. All of this has to go away to begin with. Secondly, this is your spring growth, which is normally very fast growing. This portion of it here is the lighter color when you're looking at these wood, let's see, wood. So you see these lighter colors right here, and then the darker rings. The darker rings are the summer growth. And if you've ever done any woodworking whatsoever, let's say, for instance, that if I was using a bandsaw and I wanted to cut through here, every time I hit a summer ring, I'm going to have resistance for that blade to want to go to one side every time. If I'm shooting a nail in, if I've got a nail gun and I'm shooting a nail in, and I've pulled out how many nails out of my fingers because of this, they will hit these rings and they will ricochet and they'll fly in a different direction there. So that's not cool either. But what they also do is they hold water. Because these summer rings are more dense than the spring, then they work as a cup. And when they're in this fashion here, then basically you get all this water buildup in there. Now, well, wait a minute. What about would I not draw a line across half of this and I need to cut this and turn it all over? No. The reason is all of this up here is acting as a roof for what's underneath it. So you don't have that problem of water settling down here because all of the annular rings here shed that water away from it as it's raining, I guess you could say, or the water is moving through there. So
Put them all in whole or flip them?
Say it again.
You'd either put them all in whole round, or if you cut it, the flat would be on the bottom.
Yep, you need to do it this way here. Make sure that the outer, just always think the outer part of the tree goes up. Okay, so if it's whole, great. If it's half, don't do it this way because the outer is going down. Make sure that it's going up. And if you cut it into quarters, then you do it this way as well. Same way with, like I say, same way with stacking wood for firewood. A little tidbit on that. Let's see. Thick walls, borax, permits. We're talking about permits. Trevor was talking about permits are hard to get. There's nothing in the code that says that you can't build all these funky things. The code says, this are the common things. So that's why we call this portion of it non-traditional building, because it's not normal. We don't build like this all the time. So if the building inspector is not familiar with the method that you're using, he's going to require, guess what? Engineer stamp. Now, how many engineers out there know how to do cordwood or know the strength of these pallets? It goes back to what species did you use for your cord house? What's your moisture content of this wood as it's going up? What kind of insulation are you using? Now, one thing I noticed, the sawdust, okay? So sawdust insulation can be really good, but it ain't so hot in Western North Carolina, okay? Because basically you're building a tunnel for a whole bunch of little critters to get up and through your house. So different precautions have to take place. Okay, it is 11:22. I didn't mean to hold on to you guys more than 2 minutes past our time. So take a look at the list. Whoever's on the list will be first on Wednesday. Try to make sure that you, turn on Moodle, turn on Zoom and see if you can share screens without actually having a meeting, and check this out. So we try not to have any more technical difficulties if possible. And Heath, this is nothing, I'm not trying to bash you or anything. I just, I didn't know either. I thought it was.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
You MacBook people. So, all right, guys, have a great one, and I will see you on Wednesday.
See ya.
Hey.
Adios.